Hey guys, welcome. I am Phantom Limb Gamer. You may call me Phantom or PLG. As I say in all of my, oops. As I say in all my streams, I am the host with the most, just not the most limbs, as I'm a double below knee amputee or bilateral amputee. However, what I lack in limbs, I make up for personality and sense of humor. I am a Twitch streamer. This is my YouTube page you're on right now. I want to go back maybe a month ago now. I started a series on here, which is about my time with my ex-wife, deaf music lover, and it was for those that don't remember. She is a manipulator, a gaslighter, and a narcissist, and it was an abusive relationship. So I'm using this platform to talk about my experience with it. In the first video, basically I talked about how we met, and like how the first few months of the relationship went, and that I actually moved there with her, moved to Maryland with her. Kind of a recap: she's from Maryland, and she moved to Minnesota here because she has a passion for deaf ministry. She's deaf, and so there was a church here in Minneapolis, a deaf church, that was looking for pastors. So she found out about it, which is why she moved to Minnesota. And while she was here, I met her. We started dating, and her mom has Parkinson's. So she decided to move back to Maryland after a few months. She actually was here for about a year and a half. She moved back to Maryland to be with her mom because her mom had Parkinson's, and I decided to go with her. So during the time we were together, everything was great. It was a great relationship. Everything was awesome. I really loved being with her. We were a good match. We had a lot in common. So I made the decision to move to Maryland with her. So now fast forward. So now we're in Maryland. We're engaged. We got engaged when we were living in Minnesota here. I moved there in June of 2016. I was there in June 2016, and our wedding it was in December of 2000. Actually, New Year's Eve, 2016, New Year's Eve. So we had planned the wedding, and she somehow convinced me that it would be a good idea to get married in Maryland. Even though my whole family is from Minnesota, she doesn't really have a lot of family. She has her parents, a few aunt and uncles, and some cousins. She doesn't have any siblings. She doesn't have any aunts, or nephews, nieces, anything like that. So her family is considerably smaller than mine. But she wanted to have a particular pastor marry us, and I guess I acquiesced, and we got married in Maryland. However, my friends did come to the wedding, which was really nice. I didn't have any family come, though, but I did have my friends came. Anyway, so the first few months that I was there was great. I got there. I got a job. It wasn't a great job, but it was a job. I was working for an organization that had adults with developmental disabilities, so I would basically take them places and do stuff and basically hang out with them, and I kept like a kind of like a case manager sort of thing. I kept a sheet and I recorded everything we did and how they reacted in specific situations and that kind of stuff. So I did all that. And then that's kind of when my medical problems really, really started getting bad with my leg. This was before my left leg amputation. So I was sick and I couldn't work, and so I ended up quitting my job. And then I ended up. Oh, I had another job too. I was working as a pizza delivery for Papa John's, which I really liked doing. Anyway, so then the medical problems started happening, and I had to quit both jobs. And then, so then throughout that time that I was not working, I basically took on the stay-at-home husband role. My wife, she was working full-time as a sign language interpreter. And I would do, I do all the cleaning. I clean the house and did all the laundry and cooked the meals. I basically taught myself how to cook. I could cook some things, but I wasn't a great cook. Excuse my voice. I'm just getting over sickness. But I taught myself how to cook, and so I did all the cooking. Ran all her errands for her. Took her to appointments. I would watch over the dog. She has a service dog, and when Cleo wasn't with her, I would watch Cleo. So I did that for several months, and then we got married. After we got married, my medical problem. Again, we got married on New Year's Eve, 2016. After we got married, that's when my medical problems really started kicking in. And I was in the hospital a lot, and then so through that time, I was going to appointments, and I was in and out of the hospital with infections, trying to, get better with the infections that I had, but they weren't healing. During this time, I had helped my wife. We went to during the summer, beginning of the summer, we went to a camp. She ran a camp for young adults that were deaf, a young adult deaf camp. And so I went with and I helped as a counselor, and that was actually a really, really fun experience. I learned quite a bit of ASL even before that, so it really helped me with my ASL. And then the week before we did that, she did a camp. She ran a separate camp with adults that were deaf and blind. It was a deaf-blind camp. So she did that. I stayed home and took care of the house and took care of Cleo. And then that following week is when I went to the volunteer for the camp. During this time also, we had gone on a couple vacations. We went to Myrtle Beach. Her mom's cousin owns a condo there, so we went there for, it was a week. Don't ever go to Myrtle Beach or South Carolina in August, by the way. Don't do it. It is dreadfully hot and humid there, unless you're by the beach 24/7. It is miserable. Anyways, so it went well. So after we got married, things were going well, minus my medical problems. But I was dealing with it. I was trying to do what I could. The deaf camp was a great experience. I had a lot of fun doing that. And then in August, that's when I made the decision to have my left leg amputated. I went to the doctor, and I had just gotten out. I was in the hospital, so I went to the camp for a week in June, and then in July I spent another week, almost a week and a half in the hospital because of another infection. And when I got out, I decided, I'm just gonna amputate because this is not gonna ever get better, obviously, because I've been dealing with it at this point for 10 years. And so I had the amputation done. And so I was in the hospital. And to my wife's credit, she was there. She had spent the night with me in the room. She, if I needed a meal or something, she'd go get the meal, or she'd have her parents bring a meal or whatever, like what Subway or McDonald's, whatever. And so then I was in the hospital for maybe 3 or 4 days. I got out, and then I was at home. She continued working, so I was really kind of on my own. And because I couldn't, when you have your leg amputated, they don't just like give you a leg when you leave the hospital, right? Like you got to wait for the swelling to go down. You got to wait for the stitches to come out. There's a lot of stuff you got to wait for. You have to wear what they call a stump shrinker, which helps shape your stump, and it helps with the swelling. So it takes a few months to get into what they call a check socket. Your check socket is like a temporary socket that they give you just to test the fitting, see how everything is going. You wear that for a while, kind of get your bearings. So while my wife was working, I was kind of on my own, and I got around. I had a power wheelchair, so it was just about learning how to maneuver with one leg, really. But I was able to do it. I figured it out, and she had purchased a wheelchair accessible van. So it was like a Chrysler van, and like the side door, it was a power door, would open, and then you push a button and a ramp would come down, and I could just drive the wheelchair right into the back of the van, and I could get up on the one leg and kind of maneuver to the driver's seat and drive, and I was fine. And this was my left leg that was amputated, so I was able to drive with my right foot just fine. Anyway, so I went through that, and I went through recovery, and I got better. I got my prosthetic leg. Shortly after my surgery, we did a trip to Minnesota we were here for 10 days. My wife and I got in a lot of arguments here. I don't even remember what they were about, but they were. She has an anger problem, and so like it could just be a really stupid argument, and she would just lose it. But she also had a tendency to make you feel like everything was your fault, and gaslighters and manipulators are very good at that. And anyway, so we were here, and then we went back. We were here for, I don't think, 9 or 10 days. Then we went back. When we had gone back is when things really started getting bad. We had... She... Whenever we would get into any sort of a fight, whether it would be about... it could be about something like money. She had a tendency to... Because I wasn't working, any money, like the money she made from working, like, it was her money. Like, it wasn't our money, it was her money. Everything was hers. And I didn't really care for that. And because while I wasn't working, I was still taking care of the house, and I was doing the cooking, and I would do the yard work, like I'd cut the grass, and I wasn't doing so much, obviously, after my surgery. I had one leg, so during that time, basically from August to, I would say, October, I wasn't doing anything. I was sitting on the couch, because I couldn't really do anything. But once I was better, then I was, once I got my leg, basically, and I got good at walking with it, I got back to doing my everyday stuff. So I was doing, cutting the grass and taking care of the house and cleaning and laundry and cooking and running errands and all that stuff. But she had a thing that, it's her money. Nothing was ever ours, it was hers. And that sparked a really big argument. And one day we were arguing about it, and she she went into the bedroom and she slammed the door, and she kept saying that she was gonna kill herself, and she was talking stupid like that, and so I got worried, and I went her purse and I took her keys because I didn't want her driving anywhere because I was worried. And then I called her parents, and she didn't like that I called her parents. And what this turned into was she had come out of the bedroom. She got really, really mad at me because I wouldn't give her her keys. She took a towel and like snap. You know how you can snap a towel, like you're playing a prank on someone, you snap them in the butt with a towel. Well, she did that to me, except she hit me in the eye. I gave her keys because I was scared, and she ended up kicking me out of the house. She had me. I was out. I was out of my wheelchair, and because she wouldn't let me take the wheelchair with me. So I was on crutches, and then I ended up on the floor. I don't remember if I fell or if she pushed me, but she ended up taking my leg from me, and so I didn't have a leg. And she kicked me out of the house, and I was. I remember I went out. The living room, the dining room. There's a sliding glass door to go out to the backyard, and there was a deck there. And she kicked me out, and I basically crawled outside. And I didn't even have my crutches with me. Like, I had nothing. She took my leg. I didn't have crutches. So I was just laying on the deck. It's like, luckily it was a nice day out. But I was like thinking to myself, what the hell am I going to do now? So I basically crawled over to the steps. So there's a deck. And then there's steps going down. And there's like the cement patio. And then we had like a grill and a fence. So I was able to kind of get on my legs. I went down the steps. And I was able to get myself up. And I had the grill right there, so I basically, hopped all the way from the backyard to the side fence, and then to the side of the house. We had a door going up. We had like a small stair set going up to the side to a doorway that led into the kitchen of the house. And I sat on the step, just wondering what I was going to do. And I had my phone with me, luckily. So she came out and met me, and she handed me my crutch, not my leg, she handed me my crutches so I could crutch. And I just sat there, and I wouldn't go inside. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I just kind of sat out there for, must have been an hour, 2 hours, just playing on my phone. Finally, I went inside. I just kind of like letting things cool off, I guess. So I made it back inside, and that was that. Nothing else was said. Nothing else was. There's no more arguing. It was just like I'd go in there and like nothing happened. Right? It was just like I couldn't even go in the basement because she had my leg. She brought the leg in the bedroom with her, so I didn't go in and get it because I didn't want to be around her. So I crutched over to the couch. I sat on the couch. I just watched TV. I didn't know what else to do. Eventually, she did bring my leg out, and I put it on, and I ended up leaving for a while. And she had to work that evening, so I hung out. I left for a while because I had the van, she had a car, so I left for a while just until she went to work, and then I went home. And so that was one instance. There was another instance where we went to Nebraska. My brother had passed away, and no, wait, before that, I get these mixed up. My sister was sick. My sister, Cheryl, had cancer. And I wanted to come to Minnesota because I wanted to be with her. She was getting really bad. So it wasn't just like coming to see how she was doing, it was like she was dying. And I was very close to my sister Cheryl. She helped me with a lot of my medical problems before my amputation. And she would do a lot of things that my mom or other people couldn't do, because Cheryl used to be a home nurse. So she helped me with a lot, and she just also just a good person. And I love. She's always a fun person to be around, and I was really close to her. Anyway, so I wanted to come to Minnesota, and we ended up driving. It's because it was the easiest thing to do, because we didn't buy a plane ticket. We didn't know how long we were going to be in Minnesota, first of all. So it could have been a short visit. It could have been, an extended visit. Anyways, so we left. We were supposed to leave. This was on a Sunday. We were supposed to leave like in the late morning, early afternoon, because my wife was supposed to work the next day. Now, the thing with her job is that as a sign language interpreter, the company she was working for, you can work at any of their, I'll call it a call center. You can work at any of the call centers. It doesn't matter. They have them throughout the United States. So it doesn't matter which one you go to. So she could work at any one of them. So that was kind of a nice thing, because it gave us the opportunity to come to Minnesota and she could still work. Well, she had to work at 10 o'clock the next morning. So we were supposed to leave early that afternoon, and or late morning, early afternoon. Well, we ended up not leaving until about 6 p.m. That's 6 p.m. Eastern time, and she had slept most of the day, and I was, getting things packed and ready to go. And on the drive there, so basically she was going to drive from 6 until like 9 o'clock, the first 3 hours, and then we would stop and eat, and then she was going to sleep in the back, because we had like a bench back in the back of the van. So she was going to sleep in the back. She had to work the next morning, and I was going to drive. That first 3 hours was miserable. She was so crabby and so mad. And there was one time she was just yelling while she was driving. She ended up driving over 100 miles per hour. I was scared to death. I didn't know what she was going to do. She kept saying she's suicidal. She's depressed. And I was scared for my life. So I just kind of sat in the wheelchair and just waited it out, and hopefully she would calm down. And she was upset because we were going to Minnesota, and she was depressed, and she didn't want to have to go. And I told her, I said, you didn't have to go. I could have came myself. And then she just, well, then you would have been alone, and I couldn't have been there for anyways. So after we had stopped to eat, I took over driving, and she slept in the back. And basically from 9 p.m. I drove. It's about a 17-hour drive from Minnesota to Maryland. So she drove for the first 3 hours. So I basically drove 14 straight hours. I didn't stop. We didn't stop anywhere. Because I wanted to get to Minnesota. I didn't know what the condition of my sister was. I wanted to be there for her. So I basically drove from 9 p.m. until noon or 1 the next day. So she was, my wife ended up being late to work, and they were fine with it. Anyways, so we're in Minnesota, and she's not happy the whole time we're there. That first week we were there was not easy, because my sister was in the hospital. She was hooked up to all these tubes. She was on a ventilator. She had cancer, and we didn't know really what the prognosis was at this point. So it was just a lot of going to the hospital, staying at the hospital. My wife would be working. During the end of that first week, we decided to put her into palliative care, and the doctors had said, that her condition's not improving. If anything, it's getting worse. And so we made the decision to we took her off the ventilator, and she went into palliative care, and basically that second week, so it was like, I'm thinking on a Monday, and we put her in there. She didn't have any breathing. She was breathing on her own, and by I think it was Wednesday, she had passed away. So she was okay for like 2 days, and then that Wednesday she had passed away. And my wife volunteered to do because she's a pastor, so she volunteered to officiate the funeral service, which was nice. She didn't expect money. She didn't ask for money. In fact, it was offered to her, and she turned it down. And we went. My sister, my other sister, wouldn't allow her to turn it down. So my wife said, "Well, just donate it then." So she did a good job, to her credit, officiating the funeral. So after that, we had drove back to Maryland, and I did all the driving, which is not easy. That's 17 hours of driving, but I did it. And we got back to Maryland, and we had another fight about just about the time in Minnesota, and she was upset because she didn't feel my family was appreciative enough. And anyway, so that was another instance. About a year later, we went to Nebraska because my brother Mike was sick as well. He had COPD because he smoked like his whole life. And this was really bad. We had gone there. We actually flew. I drove us to the airport. Well, we were going. The plan was we were going to drive to her cousin's and park our car there and take an Uber to the. Trying to think of the airport, because we didn't fly out of Baltimore. We flew out of Virginia. Whatever airport's in Virginia. Anyways, her cousin lived like 20 minutes from that airport. So we were going to park at their house, so we didn't have to pay for parking at the airport, and then take an Uber to the airport. Well, as I was driving, of course, mind you, my brother had just passed away. My wife is upset because I decided to go to the funeral. So the whole time we're driving, she's yelling at me and screaming at me, and of course I missed the exit we were supposed to take, and she didn't realize it, and I didn't realize it until much later. At this time, we're almost to the Baltimore airport. So, not to the Baltimore airport. We're close to we took another route to get to the airport we're supposed to go to. Well, we didn't have time to stop at her cousin's to park the car and then take an Uber, so we drove direct to the airport. She wasn't happy about this. She was very mad, very upset, yelling. Called me how useless I am, how stupid I am, how worthless I am, and I can't do anything right. And this was a common thing for her every time she got mad at me. And anyways, we get to the airport, and we weren't really talking to each other because she's mad at me, and I don't want to say anything to make her more upset. So we fly to Nebraska, and we ended up renting a car, and we drive to the hotel. Didn't really say anything to each other. And I took care of Cleo. We get to the hotel. I took care of Cleo. I let Cleo out. I feed her. And we get in the hotel. She ends up going swimming. She gets mad at me because I don't want to go swimming with her. I'm not a big... She loves swimming. She loves being in the water. I'm just not a big pool guy. I don't really care to swim. I'm more of a hot tub guy. So she got mad at me because I don't want to go swimming. So I stayed at the room. She went swimming. She came back to the room. We ended up going to bed. The next day we get up. We meet with my family. um, for the wake. We go to the church for the wake, which my wife officiated again. She volunteered to officiate. So that was fine. Obviously, she was on her best behavior because we're all family. And we ended up doing it was a wake. It was like it wasn't a wake and a funeral. It was just like all in one sort of thing. Mike was cremated, so we didn't have, there wasn't a visitation. It was just the church, and they had like the urn with his picture on it. And after that, we went down to the church basement, and we did like a lunch and that kind of thing. And that night, we were supposed to go meet my sister at her hotel. Well, my sister Teresa gave us, I don't remember if she gave us the name of the hotel. Like, she was either wrong with the name of the hotel, the name of the hotel, or where the hotel was. In any event, we went to the wrong one. And my wife kept saying how hungry she was. I said, well, why don't we go get you something to eat? She's like, no, we're going to be late. And I was like, well, we're already late. She gave us the wrong hotel, or the wrong whatever. And so I kept saying, well, we can get you something to eat. It's fine. It's not a big deal. And that turned into an argument. Because I wouldn't let it go, because I wanted to make sure, she said she was hungry, so I wanted to make sure she got to eat. And she got mad because I wouldn't let it go. Anyways, this turned into a really, really bad fight. And we got back to the room, because we ended up not going to see my sister. So we went back to the hotel, and things got physical. She pushed me, and I think I might have pushed her back once. In fact, I'm pretty sure I did. And she kept telling me that, again, I'm worthless, and I'm useless, and I'm stupid, I'm dumb, and I should just die. And I mean, it was just... So, the next day, we were only there for 2 or 3 days, because we were just really only there for the funeral. So the next day, I wake up, and we get in another really bad fight. It was a continuation. And she kept saying that, we shouldn't be married, and she should have never started, being with me or dating me, or she should never marry me. It was a big mistake. She'd be much better off without me. It was a lot of choice words she had. So and she's like, if you come back with me, I'm going to leave you at the airport. So I decided to drive back with my sister Teresa. So my wife ended up driving to the airport. She was mad at me because I wasn't driving with her. I said, I'm going back with Teresa. And you said you didn't want to be married to me anymore. You said it was a mistake. And so I took it at that. And, she was upset. And, people say things when they're upset. But this wasn't the first time she had said this. And it was a lot of other things that were said too. And so I ended up driving with my sister. My wife went to the airport. Well, as I'm driving with them, my wife was texting me and wanted me to go back with her. So I made the decision. My sister and brother-in-law dropped me off at the airport. And I found my way to the gate. And I went back. Well, the next day, so we went back to Maryland. The next day, she had church, actually, because she's a pastor. So the next morning, she's at church. I get up. I'm kind of making lunch or whatever, and I get a text, and she goes, "Well, make sure you have all your stuff packed. But by the time I get home, because I'm taking you to the airport, I want you out of my life. So, so I got my suitcase, and before I started packing, I made lunch. She walks in the front door, and I was kind of being a smart ass, hoping to kind of joke it off, you know what I mean? And I said, I hope you don't mind. I decided I wanted to eat lunch before I started packing. And she didn't like that at all. And I was sitting at the table, and she was kind of standing next to me as I'm eating. And she's just looking at me with like these eyes, like looks could kill. My God, I would have dropped dead right there. She picks up a piece, like a cardboard box that was empty. There was like granola bars in it, but it was empty. And she threw it at me. She hit me in the face. And I just kind of shrugged it off, whatever. Then she took like knowing that didn't do anything, she took a light bulb. It was one of these, I don't know how to explain it, like one of these, like, what, the swirling type light bulbs that wasn't like a normal light bulb. It was like one of these LED bulbs that like looked different. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't have one around me. Anyways, she picked that up, and as close as my hand is to my face, she threw it at me and hit me right in the mouth, and it busted. Like the glass just like scattered all over the table, and I was bleeding. I had my mouth like this, my hand over my mouth, and she goes, "You're just bleeding a little bit. Don't be such a weenie." And I was like, and I got up, and I had started packing my stuff, and she was driving me to the airport. On the way there, I called my mom, and I said, she goes, "Hey, how are you doing?" I said, "Well, not so well. My wife and I had gotten to a fight, and she wants me to leave Maryland. She doesn't want me here anymore." I said, and so my mom's like, "Okay, well, what happened?" I said, "Well, I don't really want to talk about that now." I said, "She's taking me to the airport. I need to know, what am I going to do?" She's like, "Okay, well," my mom had given me a credit card for emergencies. And she's like, "You have that card?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Okay, just have her take you to a hotel and just check in, and then we'll figure it out from there." I said, "Okay." So I had called a few hotels by BWI. It's about a 90-minute drive from Hagerstown to the airport, so I had time to find a hotel. So I found one. I called. I made a reservation, and my wife didn't like that I did that because basically she decided while we're driving that she doesn't want me to leave now. So I said, "No, you made it clear. You want me out. You threw a light bulb at my face." And then all of a sudden, now she starts feeling bad. And she's like, "Well, I'm not really bringing you, and, I'm sorry I did that. I shouldn't have. I lost my temper, and blah, blah, blah." And so we ended up going home, and I called my mom, and I kind of explained to her what happened and about the argument, and I talked to my friends, and they're like, you don't. They always told me, you don't have to stay there. If you're not happy, you don't have to stay there. And my wife always had a way of after fights of making me feel like it was my fault. And I'm not saying everything was her fault. It takes two people to fight. And I know I said and did things I shouldn't have said in the heat of in the moment of passion, but I was never the one to tell her that she's worthless and that she should kill herself, and that I had no purpose in this world, that this world would be better off without me, and and I was always one to apologize first. So I always made excuses to stay, and I never moved, and I regret that, because there was a lot of things I missed out in Minnesota here that I could have been a part of. And the other thing is that my wife, she never took she never took any opportunity to get to know my family. It was always, she was always too busy. She was always working. She this, she that. She was always an excuse. She never wanted to get to know my family. She tried turning my mom against me. Rather, she tried turning me against my mom. She did that a lot. And there was one time she was successful, and I regretfully say that. She'd always say my family and friends would never be there for me. If I ended up having more medical problems, they would not take care of me. They wouldn't do anything for me. That they only hang out with me when it's convenient for them, and this and that, and it was just shame on me for letting her get to me, and I did, and that's part of the reason I didn't come back. Anyways, so that's part of it. I think I'll end here. There's a lot more to tell, but I wanted to at least give you guys a little bit more insight on things that happened. There is another really big fight that happened that I'll go into next time. If anybody's watching this has any sort of if you're in any sort of relationship you don't want to be in, or if it's an abusive relationship, or if you're not happy, get out. It's not worth it, guys. It's not worth it. If you want to talk to somebody, you can talk to me. I was it was 5 years. It was not a good relationship. It was very manipulative. So it's just not worth it. It's not worth your happiness. Only you're in charge of your happiness, guys. Only you. No one else. There's a saying that goes, if you're not happy with any part of your life, you have the power to change it. If you don't take those steps to change it, then you're content with where you're at. And understandably, change does not come overnight. That doesn't mean you can't start taking steps. If you take no steps, nothing's going to change. So, stay happy, guys. Be in charge of your happiness. Don't let anyone else tell you what you should or shouldn't do. Only you're in control of that. So, anyways, if you enjoy this video, please drop a like, subscribe to my channel. You can also come visit me on Twitch, www.twitch.tv/Phantom Limb Gamer. That's all one word. The P, L, and G are all capitalized. Until next time, guys. Again, thank you for watching.